This naan smells amazing, and so does my kitchen. Imagine tearing into this beautiful flatbread, nice and golden brown on the outside and pillowy soft on the inside. In just a few hours, you can turn your sourdough starter, discard, or unfed starter into this beautiful flatbread. It's perfect for dipping, creating sandwiches, or just enjoying on its own. My kids absolutely love it with a little cheese sprinkled on top or just warmed up with a little butter. Hi, I'm Kate and welcome to FARMBREAD. So today I'm excited to share that we're going to be making a beautiful and delicious sourdough naan. It's soft and chewy and it's as fun to make as it is to eat. If you've been making sourdough and you already have an existing starter, this is a really wonderful way to try something new with it. And it's also a great way to use up your discard instead of throwing it out. I'll take you through the entire process step by step, and I will also share some tips based on my experience and key learnings along the way. If you love naan, I'm really excited for you to give this a try and let me know how it goes in the comments below. If you are new to naan, it's a fascinating flatbread. It's so delicious. I remember the first time I tried it in Chicago. I was working at an agency and my boss had ordered Indian for us. And it was this really incredible Indian restaurant in Chicago at the time. It was called Gaylord. And she got regular naan and garlic naan. And that's something that I'm definitely going to have to make for you as well. Adding garlic as an inclusion. But oh my gosh, when I tried it and I was dipping it into some of these aromatic Indian sauces, I just fell in love. And from that point on, I was hooked. Naan is so versatile. There's so many ways that you can enjoy it, whether it's with butter, whether it's with cheese like my kids love, or you could dip it into hummus, have it with some veggies. One thing that my husband and I are going to be making this weekend for our camping trip is he's going to be grilling some Mediterranean chicken and shrimp. So we are going to be making some delicious Mediterranean sandwiches using our naan. And it's great because you can just spread some tzatziki or hummus down and then some lettuce and then sprinkle on your marinated protein. Oh my gosh, it is so delicious. It's such a fun, quick process. And because we're using our sourdough discard, it really is quick compared to your typical sourdough baking. All right, let's get started. We are going to start by mixing our dry ingredients together first. Now I am going to be using my Ankarsrum because I have it and I can. If you don't have an Ankarsrum, do not worry. You could use another mixer or you could just do this by hand. It's actually quite simple to do by hand. I'm going to start by adding our dry ingredients, the flour, sugar, salt, and baking powder. And I'm going to add those into our Ankarsrum mixer. I have our dough roller and our dough knife already set up. And I am adding 300 grams of a all-purpose flour. This is about 2.5 cups. Next, we're adding our sugar and salt. I love pink Himalayan salt. You can see the beautiful color here. And I am adding a raw unrefined sugar. We have 8 grams of the pink Himalayan salt and 12 grams of the sugar. That's about a tablespoon of sugar and a teaspoon of salt. And last but not least, I'm going to be adding about 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. All right, we just want to start off slowly by turning on our mixer or using a whisk with your bowl and combining these dry ingredients together. You can see I use the arm to help move the ingredients around. Dough knife also does that. So don't be afraid to play around with your tools with the Ankarsrum. Don't just let them sit there because chances are you'll get some ingredients that just sit in the middle. So it's important that you are moving your wand or your arm around to help incorporate all of the ingredients. This looks pretty good to me. I'm just going to stop the mixer. Now we're going to be adding our wet ingredients. Okay. So now that we are adding our wet ingredients, I am going to make a little hole in the center here, a little well, if you will. And I'm just going to pour our wet ingredients right into that center. We are starting with our unfed starter. So our sourdough starter, this has been unfed. It's kind of like a discard, if you will. 120 grams. Roughly about a half of a cup. Next, we have our Greek yogurt. This is 60 grams of a plain Greek yogurt. This is about a fourth of a cup. Next, I'm going to be adding about 15 grams or roughly a tablespoon of avocado oil. I don't know if you can hear our rooster Louie crowing, saying hello in the background. Last but not least, we're adding 120 milliliters of milk. Now, what I'm going to do is add about half of this. This is about a half of a cup just for the conversion, but I'm going to add about half of this and then start to mix. And as we're mixing, I'm going to gauge if we need to add more or not. Sometimes our dough comes out drier, sometimes it comes out more wet, and we really want to pay attention to the texture here. So that's why I'm reserving a little bit of it, and then I will add it in if we need it. So I'm going to start to turn my mixer on. And we'll see how the ingredients are incorporating. Yep, it's looking a little dry, so I'm going to start to add in a little bit more. We want to get a nice but rough kind of dough. It wants to be, we want it soft, but not sticky. So I did put in the entire amount. Move my arm out just a little bit because we do have a nice ball forming. And I can turn my Ankarsrum up just a little bit to help move things along. This is looking really nice. So I think these portions today are working really well for us. I want to get that little bit down in the center combined. I'm gonna move this out. There we go. There we go. All right, this is looking really nice. Turn my Ankarsrum up just a hair. You can see the sides of the mixer, everything is coming off the bottom and the side nicely. That's a really good sign. All right, we're not going to be kneading this right now. Just want to combine everything. So I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to show you. Let me move the arm back so you can see. I'll take the dough roller out. Came off really nice and clean for the most part. That this dough is soft. It's a nice ball, but it's not sticky. I'm not getting a lot of residue on my fingers. So this looks good. All right, I'm gonna clean this off with our little Ankarsrum scraper. You could use a regular dough scraper with your tools. If you're mixing by hand, again, you want a texture similar to this. I'm gonna go wash my tools. I'm gonna cover our dough and we're just gonna let this rise for about an hour. So I will see you in an hour. If you are enjoying this recipe and others, definitely comment below. I'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. If you have a suggestion for another video, definitely put it in the comments below as well. I love your ideas. They always give me so much inspiration and I so appreciate that. Also, I do have a mini course for how to create your starter, and that's going to be coming out within the next month or so. And I'm really excited to share that. So if you are new to sourdough in general and you don't have a starter going yet, have no fear. I will be releasing a mini course that's going to get you up to speed in no time, creating your starter and your first loaf of sourdough bread in just 8 days. Comment below if that's something that you're interested in, and I'll make sure that you get a notification for it. Okay, we're back. It's been a little bit over an hour and we are ready to shape our beautiful naan. So take a look at the dough. Because we're using a discard, we are not looking to get anything double in size, anything like that. This is just to relax the dough so that it's going to be easier for us to shape. Now I'm just going to grab our dough and put it out onto a clean countertop. So now I'm just going to kind of squeeze this down into a rectangle because we're going to be making 8 naan breads. So I just want to get this to a point where I can cut it nicely and divide it equally. This is a good time to share that we will need a bench scraper. This is like a fantastic baking item to have. If you don't have one, it is worth the investment. They're so inexpensive. And I do have links to the ones that I use below. You can get them right off Amazon. You're also going to need a rolling pin because we're going to be rolling these out fairly flat. All right, so now I'm just going to cut this lengthwise in half. And now I'm going to divide each of these into 4 pieces. You will notice that I didn't put flour down. I really find that it makes it harder for me. If my dough is in a good at a good texture and feel, I really do not like to use flour if I don't have to. So right now I don't have any flour on the surface. Now when we're rolling it out, if it gets sticky, then obviously I will add flour. But right now I don't need to. And the bench scraper also helps to pick and move the dough around so that it doesn't stick where it shouldn't. But you can see this is easily coming up. It's not sticking to the counter, so it's really not necessary to use flour. It also is harder for shaping, I found, especially with bagels and buns. I really don't like to use flour if I don't have to because it really makes it a lot harder to shape. We now have 8 beautiful pieces of our dough. So now we're going to start shaping. I'm actually just going to move these up a little bit and out of the way so I can use the space to shape. So here is where you might want to add a little bit of flour. So I've got my flour nearby. I'm not going to use it yet, but I'm ready to if I need to. In fact, I am going to sprinkle a little bit where I'm going to be storing my flatbreads. So when I have them resting, I have a slight dusting, and I'm talking like super light dusting of flour on the surface. So as you can see, I'm just kind of shaping this a little bit like a circle, and then I'm just going to go back and forth. It is a little bit sticky, so just put a little dusting of flour on the rolling pin. And then I'm going to pick it up, flip it over. I'm actually going to move these up a little bit because I feel like they are getting in my way. A little flour if we need it. You can also just add a little flour to your rolling pin. And then I'll pick it up, flip it over. You don't need to create beautiful circles. They can just be any shape that works well. So I've got somewhat of an odd shape here, but that is totally fine. I guess ideally we would do circles, but it is definitely not necessary. So now that I have a circle here, I'll just plop it onto the flour, both sides, and then we'll roll. There's a trick to getting nice circles. You just have to rotate the dough and apply even pressure in areas. So if you do want nicer circles, you can definitely achieve that. I kind of like the organic shapes. There we go, a little bit nicer of a circle. Now that I have more room with my rolling pin, it's a little bit easier. So now, this was our last one, we are going to start getting our skillet on the stove heated up and ready to cook. I have our skillet heating up. You really want to have a nice heavy duty skillet here. A lot of folks like to use cast iron. I've got this enamelware that works really well because we have a really nice flat bottom where the bottom is going to heat really nice and evenly. I'm also using about 1 to 2 tablespoons of avocado oil with a pastry brush because we are going to be brushing our flatbreads with the oil as they cook. You could also use butter, absolutely, but I find that if I do have these sit out for a little bit, the butter starts to kind of get that sheen, if you will, and I just prefer the oil. So you could also use like an olive oil, any type of oil really. So I have our burner on medium right now. I'm going to turn it down to medium low once we get ready. And we are just about there. Okay, our pan is nice and warm and I have my cooling rack right next to it. So as I take our flatbread naan out of our pan, I'm just gonna plop it over onto our cooling rack. So note, I don't have any oil in here. So when I put my first naan in, it is totally dry. Each naan's gonna cook for about 2 to 3 minutes on one side. What you're gonna kind of look for is little bubbles starting to come up. I'm gonna turn the heat down to medium low. And as this cooks, kind of like pancakes, look for those tiny little bubbles that start to pop up. Now when that happens, I'll brush this side with some of my avocado oil. And then I'm gonna flip it over and heat the other side for about 1 minute or so. You can see these beautiful little bubbles starting to come up. Give it another minute. We want that nice kind of deep, dark coloring in certain areas. We don't want it just lightly golden brown. We want like a really nice brick oven kind of look, if you will. So that's what we're going for here. I eyeball a lot of things if you haven't noticed. So I'm not actually timing this per se. All right, since this is our first one and our pan is just getting ready, I'm flipping it over for now, but I actually am gonna go back and cook this side a little bit more just because I really like a deeper, darker coloring in those beautiful little areas. So we'll let this side cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. Once we really start to see it puff up, then we can flip it back over. You'll notice, like with any cooking, the first ones always are a little bit lighter, and then as you progress, the rest start to get a little bit darker as you go. So that's kind of just the nature of cooking. Yep, you can start to see some bubbles forming. Gonna have some coffee. A little sip of coffee while we wait. And don't be afraid to just peek under and see how that coloring is looking. Oh yeah, we're getting that coloring that we want. So what I'm gonna do is actually flip this over. See that? That is like that beautiful deep dark brown that I think is just, when you think of naan, you think of those little specks and beautiful little colors. So that's what we're going for. All right, we're getting some nice air bubbles. So I think we're gonna just remove this. Let me see if I can flip it over for you to see if we, yeah, there we go. A little bit more golden. Okay, this is good. So I'm gonna take this out and set it aside on our cooling rack. And now I'm not adding any more oil to the pan. I'm just gonna toss in our naan. And again, I'm gonna repeat this whole process. So once we start to see little bubbles forming, I will add a brush of avocado oil, and then I will flip it over and we'll let it cook on the other side for another minute or two. And as we do go along, this process does start to speed up. So once your pan is really at a good temperature, you'll notice you're spending less time on the last few than you were on the first. Getting some really nice little bubbles here. This is just in time because I have to go get my son from camp shortly. All right, I'm gonna start to brush with some oil. I'll flip this one over. Beautiful. And then I'll just a little bit of oil on this side. I like the avocado because it's just so light in flavor and texture. Look at that little bubble in the center. So here, I might just flip it over again to get a little bit darker coloring on the front. All right, set it aside. On to our next naan. All right, I'm gonna finish these up and I will see you once we are all done. This one's looking good. I'll take this one out and we are done. Now we're just gonna let our naan sit and cool on our cooling racks for a little bit, but they are delicious when you eat them warm. So don't stop if you really want it. Don't forget to turn your burner off, and I'll see you in a little bit once these are cooled. So there you have it, a new and exciting and delicious way to use your sourdough starter and discard. What could be better than a soft, warm, delicious naan in just a few hours? If you'd like to learn more, you can always visit me at farmbread.org, and I do have a new Amazon storefront where I share all of my favorite baking tools. So definitely check that out. Thanks so much for baking with me today. I'll see you next time.